Awesome. We're live with Jordan Nathan, founder and CEO of Caraway. Hi, Jordan. Thanks for being here.
Hey, John, thanks for having me.
Great. Well, for those out there who don't know what Caraway is, Jordan, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about a little bit about what you're up to?
Sure. So I'm the founder and CEO of Caraway. We're a digitally native home goods and kitchen brand. Launched in 2019. Our mission's to create non-toxic and eco-friendly kitchenware and home goods focused on high design with colors. You may have seen our first product. It's a cookware set that uses a ceramic-based non-stick. It's 100% non-toxic, and our goal is to rid the industry of Teflon and hope to really bring that mission, to future products as we grow.
And anyone who's on a mission to, you know, get rid of Teflon, get them out of this world of dirty cookware. I'm totally on board with that. Jordan, can you tell us a little about like what got you to become passionate about cookware? How did you end up getting into this space?
Definitely. So I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. Probably starting back in college, I ended up creating my own major, which was consumer psychology.
Mm,
When I first graduated school, I launched my first business called Wanu. It was an e-commerce marketplace back in around 10 years ago when D2C was really new, and wanted to create a marketplace for products that people need versus want.
mm.
Ended up launching the product. Uh, didn't get very far with the fundraising process, so unfortunately had to shut that business down. Then joined a company called Mohawk Group, which is a holding company that owns multiple brands. I ran Vremi, which was their kitchen brand, and had a great experience of learning the industry, the category. Actually launched over 200 kitchen products in about 18 months, and got to do everything from pricing, marketing, the product sourcing, and really learned everything there is to know about running a brand. And during that experience, was home one night cooking on a Teflon fry pan a couple years ago. Uh, I think I got a call. I put the pan on my burner, forgot I left it there, and about 45 minutes went by, and my whole apartment ended up being filled with fumes. I was really sick and nauseous, and called poison control, and they had let me know that I was likely exposed to Teflon poisoning. At which point I started just getting really interested in materials and categories, started diving in deeper, and found that 95% of nonstick cookware is made with Teflon. It's a material that's just linked to a ton of types of cancers and behavioral issues, and is in 99% of people's blood because of the runoff that goes into our waterways. And so felt there was just a big opportunity to build a brand around non-toxic products. And with my background in the kitchen, felt there was no one else better suited to take on the problem.
Super cool. And as you started to like dive in, so you're at Mohawk Group, you start this company called Remy, or as you were running Remy as a part of this bigger organization. Um, what happened? Did you jump ship or did you start working on this on the side? Like, was there conflict of interest? Like, what was the process like for just like diving in and starting to prototype what Caraway would become? And yeah, can you just, and then how long did it take to get to like launching your first product as an example?
Yeah, well, I was the CEO of Remy at Mohawk Group, and
Mm,
had a great 2.5 years there. And I think towards the end of my tenure was really learned an amazing skill set at that company. It's now public and owns, I think, 12 or 15 brands by this point. And I think after doing everything across a full brand, I always wanted to start my own company, and felt after a while it just felt right to leave and want to start something myself. And it happened to be the same category that I was working on before, but I knew it very intimately. I was really excited about it, and it was a pretty quick process. I mean, after I kind of went out on my own, it's obviously always a big risk and leap of faith. But I think I took a month, or maybe even less, to make a fundraising deck, and soon just started pitching investors, reaching out to investors, and it was just me. I had no co-founders. I just had a deck. I had no product. So it was essentially like, it was like a deck with my face and like the business model that I wanted to pursue.
Interesting. Interesting. And then you close the round, and then do you go straight into hiring a team? Do you go into straight into product development? Do you do both at the same time? What did that look like?
Yeah, well, the round took about 10 months to close. It was a very,
Wow.
very slow burn. Probably pitched 5 investors every single day for that first year. And the checks came slowly, but as we started closing more capital, I was able to start using the initial cash to develop the product. And then as we, started fundraising more, use the next kind of batch to build the brand, the website, and then I think I started fundraising in July of 2018, and we launched the brand. Actually, to take a step back, we started designing the product November of 2018, and then we actually launched in November of 2019. So it took about a year from product development to get to market, and then I guess a year and a half from the beginning of that fundraise process.
And how, the product looks beautiful today. And our head of growth and many that I've spoken to that I've used Caraway absolutely love the quality and the way it cooks, as well, the way it works. How many iterations did it take you to get to that product that you guys shipped after a year of product development? And has the product changed since then?
Sure.
Yeah.
It was actually a pretty quick product development process, but I think I had the benefit of understanding the production process because I had been producing cookware before. I don't know how many iterations. I can tell you we 3D printed several hundred handles to get the perfect fit. In terms of design, I think we looked at a number of concepts early on, but the current product that we have today was a pretty clear winner from the start, and something that we thought was sleek, but also something that was mass marketable and timeless. And so we moved quick. We did a ton of testing. Our non-stick, non-toxic coating is pretty unique to Caraway, and so that took some time to get right and test. But in general, we kind of lean into looking at reviews out there on products in the space, like learning from just available data to inform the features we wanted, and didn't do too much rigorous testing before launching it.
And when you guys started, were there already other direct to consumer players in cookware in the market? Were you looking at the competition, or were you really just looking at the legacy product, the Teflon products, or the products that are like the most popular in a William and Sonoma? I think it's like Le Creuset, in terms of how you guys thought about competition and going to market.
Yeah, I think we looked at both. I do believe we were the last direct-to-consumer brand to launch, and that's what made that first fundraise so challenging. Is there were 5, 6, 7 other brands who talked to the same investors we were chatting with before, and were launched before we even started thinking about starting the brand. And so, I think we were very cognizant of what others were doing, but I think all the brands in the space kind of have their own customer. They've got their own products, and there's certainly room for everyone. A lot of the brands that we've seen launch were very stainless steel focused, or cast iron focused, which are great markets, and I do think every customer should have those in their home. But nonstick was something that wasn't really touched. High design with a lot of colors wasn't really focused on. And for us, we wanted to create our brand, initially around obviously the non-toxic materials, but also take it a step further and, figure out how to turn kitchenware into decor and art. And so, if you look at our images, if you look at a lot of our content, we love to focus on interior design, home decor, how to choose colors in your kitchen. And we've really tried to differentiate ourselves by actually staying away from the traditional recipes or food type content. And I'll say too, like having other brands launch before us probably also pushed us more in that direction, just so, we wanted to be able to stand out and do something different.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, I guess something else that I've noticed about the space and world is like more and more discount stores are selling like non-stick ceramic um, products. And I'm curious how you guys are definitely selling a premium product, but is there anything in particular that drives the cost up from a supply perspective? And then how does it compare? How do you compare against like, those types of products that you might find
Sure.
for a cheaper cost?
Yeah, so ceramic's actually been around in the category for over a decade. The reason it never really reached mass market was because it has traditionally been used on lower priced products, and as a result, the ceramic itself is cheaper. It doesn't last as long. There's also a lot of synthetics in the market where
Mm,
it's marketed as ceramic, but it actually has Teflon in it. And so, no one had ever really brought ceramic to high end products. And, part of that as a material is uh, it is, I wouldn't call it delicate, but it requires certain care to use it right. And so, if you have ceramic on a retail shelf, there's no education about the material. You can't learn anything on how to take care of it. And so, we've invested a lot in teaching customers, how to take care of it, how to use it. We were able to
mm,
leverage our site and education and brand experience to be able to sell it on a high end item. And then, compared to a Teflon, it is more expensive. It's got a higher reject rate in production. It is very hard to execute, and I think that's why a lot of brands, especially the traditional brands out there that you typically see, have avoided it. And I think the other piece to that is just that there's haven't been any brands like a Caraway who have put pressure on some of the larger competitors to change. If they've been
mm.
selling Teflon for the past 5 decades and it's still working, and there's no one who's coming to challenge them, it would just cannibalize their own business to switch. And so, most of the larger brands have kept selling what they have been because it works and there's no pressure to change.
Yeah. And as you're thinking about the vision of the brand and other products to get into, can you give us an idea of what's next in the pipeline?
Yeah, I can't say exactly what we have coming, but the kitchen's a big space, the home's a big space, and we feel there's just a lot of categories that need a material refresh that could function as decor, can integrate color, can have a solve when it comes to storage. And
Mm,
so, we have a lot coming. We're excited to launch, and at least as of early 2021, we're really just focused on growing the core cookware set. We're doing a lot of fun collaborations with colors and partners. We just launched our first exclusive partnership with a retailer 2 weeks ago with Crate and Barrel. We launched a limited color that sold out in less than a day. And so right now, excited to keep expanding the current assortment and growth.
awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see what you guys do in the coming months. Where did the name come from? How did you decide on the name Caraway?
Yeah, so we wanted something tied to the kitchen. So caraway is a type of spice, and it actually has the same shape as our handles on the top of our lids. And so we thought it was a nice kind of tie between the kitchen and the
Mm,
product design.
cool. Um, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, Jordan. I'm always curious to dive a little bit deeper into like the mind of the entrepreneur, the founder. You mentioned wanting to be always start your own company. Where did that drive come from? Do you have entrepreneurs in your family? What drove you to want to start a company to begin with?
Sure. Yeah, so my dad owns a small business. My mom, also helps my dad out, but also traditionally was a controller for many small businesses as well. And I think growing up in a culture and a home where my parents were building their own businesses, they weren't in large organizations that had bosses. They could make their own hours. I think my brother also has started his own venture back company. So I think both of us kind of learned a thing or two. And I think it's a big result of just the culture we grew up, at home. And I even think back to like high school. I was always really interested in businesses, and actually back at summer camp, I used to on visiting day, my parents would bring a lot of candy, and I would actually wait to eat it until everyone else ate their candy, and then I'd sell everything that I had. And so I always had that kind of spirit. And even I think going into college, I couldn't really think of anything else I wanted to do but start something. So I never knew what it would be, but I knew at some point I'd want to pursue entrepreneurship.
Interesting. And when, throughout your experience at Mohawk Group, you got to be the CEO of Remy. What kind of skills did you have to hone in over that period of time in order to feel ready to like just jump into it? I'm sure there's stuff like that was specific to the industry, but was there anything else in terms of just like disciplines or leadership that you had to hone in over that time in order to be ready to make the leap of faith?
Sure. Yeah, I fortunately had an amazing experience there, and I think got exposure to every area of the business. I did all of our product development and sourcing. I built the unit economics for all those products we were going to launch. I decided what prices we were going to sell them at, and then once they actually got to market, had the opportunity to do all the marketing and advertising, and eventually made my way too into learning how to forecast. And so got a really full picture experience there. But I think my biggest takeaway was, when it comes to like unit economics and pricing, you only launch a product once, and we've learned this with Caraway. And I think for any founders out there, making sure like your products can be profitable, like the margins are good from the start, because I see a lot of products launch that the margins just don't work. And I think the starting point of when you launch a product is really the time to make that decision, get the price out in the market. And had a lot of great learnings around understanding the unit economics, understanding how cash flow works, understanding how to price. And we take a lot of those learnings into Caraway, which today I think have been some of our biggest growth levers.
And then how about on, you mentioned fundraising for the business for like a decent nine months, and the checks started rolling in. What did you learn? And I'm sort of asking this selfishly as well. What did you learn about pitching and fundraising over that period of time? Like what made you a better CEO in terms of getting people to buy into the vision and maybe even buy into the brand that you were building?
Yeah, it was a tough fundraise. As I said, a lot of brands had come before us and raised. I didn't have a product, I didn't have a brand, but I think my biggest learning, having gone through that process twice, is my like initial pitch. If I think back and look at the old deck, the big piece that was missing was just kind of the long-term vision, and where I wanted Caraway to be in 10, 15, 20 years. I think a lot of early decks, and I see a lot of decks come through my plate, really focus on like the product and brand. But I think what gets investors excited is the big picture, and as well as how to get there. And so that was a big kind of learning experience. And I think balancing like that mix of short-term and long-term goals when you're pitching investors, super important.
All right. I'm going to take that, already thinking about how we can iterate and refine things in our own process based off of that. So it's super helpful. We've chatted a couple times, and I've seen you as I don't know you that well, but you seem very organized, very methodical, disciplined in your approach. Like you've, even as you spoke about doing everything from the unit economics to marketing, that you're able and you actually enjoy wearing a lot of hats. I'm curious to like even just zoom out of like entrepreneurship and maybe just starting a business. Like what else would you what would you say has contributed to your success thus far as an entrepreneur? I'm sure there's things that are just inherent in you, but what other skills have you had to hone in, or ways to minimize distraction and enhance productivity, enhance focus? Can you take us a little bit through like your growth as an individual and how that's maybe led to your business as well?
Sure. Yeah, growing up, I played ice hockey and played very competitively, and eventually played in college as well. And I think part of being an athlete is time management. And so I think one of my biggest strengths, and I've brought this really into my full career, is just maximizing the amount of output in the time that I'm focused on the business. And that's also allowed me as a founder. You still work a lot of hours, you're always thinking about the business, but being in a position to shut the laptop off at 6 or 7 and enjoy some nice work-life balance has been awesome. Yeah, I think the other thing too, and I think the best entrepreneurs I've seen out there really do this, and I try to do this as best as I can, but being willing to be super resourceful and just having uh, figuring out ways to any challenges or partnerships or business development initiatives to get the answer you need. And I think for me, over the course of my career, I've definitely gotten better at this, but not having fear when it comes to just emailing someone, even if it's a big time CEO that you want to chat with. I never hesitate at this point to just email anyone that we want to work with. And cold emails are secretly very effective if you know how to do them right. So I think in my day to day, like if I think about all the retail partnerships we have, or all the investors or brand partnerships, like probably 90% of those came from cold emails. And I think that's a big reason why Caraway's successful today.
Super cool. And I can relate to that in some ways, still on the journey and enjoying every moment of it. But as I look at the last couple of years, I just look at how many people that I emailed, that many people said I shouldn't have emailed, or oftentimes I was going to events and just like taking photos with these people. So, just being a fly on the wall and like a super fan. So can definitely relate to that. Any sort of, just to dive a little bit deeper into the cold email stuff. Um, what have you found most useful in terms of the process of sending cold emails? And do you have any sort of way to organize it? Like, do you have a hit list of like, I want to hit these people this week? Do you make sure that you send a minimum amount of cold emails a week or a month in order to like kind of just like keep flexing that muscle?
Yeah, great questions. I think one piece, and obviously I get a lot of cold emails, and I'm sure you do as well, but I think getting direct to the point, I personally get a lot of cold emails where people want to pick my brain or get a coffee. And I think that's, it's great, but as a founder, I don't have time for that with most people. And so, I think in the emails itself, keep it short, brief, and I think being really direct about what value that partner can get out of the conversation.
Mm,
And then in terms of my own approach, I think it depends on the process, but um, I'm kind of scatterbrained when it comes to thoughts. And typically throughout my days, if something pops into my head being like, oh, we should partner with JOON, I'm on my email all day, so I'll just hop in and fire off emails. And so I kind of just do it as the thoughts come up versus a typical process. If it's something like fundraising, then yeah, maybe I'll sit down, create targets, and do that as one mail merge or push. But in general, I try to send them off as they come into my head, because otherwise you end up like just creating a list. It sits there, and you never end up getting to it.
totally. And you also mentioned two places I want to jump off there. One, turning off. So 6 p.m., shutting off the laptop, having that work-life balance. Um, is there anything besides cooking, because I know that's probably one, that you do in order to switch gears, in order to like stop thinking about work for at least a little bit, in order to make sure that you come back to what you're doing more rejuvenated, or as we like to say, rejuvenated?
Definitely. Uh, I I'd say very simply, like I try to just stay off my phone well, I watch TV most nights, but I try to stay off email. Shopify is really addicting to look at the sales dashboard, but uh, and my mood is very much tied to if our sales are up and down, and so yeah, I think just staying off my devices and email and kind of save those things for the next day. And with that too, I usually like to get into bed around 10, and at that point, I'm watching something or I'm reading, and I turn off all notifications. I make sure no text or email can come through. That's gonna set me up for a bad night of sleep. And then in terms of kind of schedule too, Saturdays I usually delegate as no working at all, and I typically, you know, turn my phone off that whole day, and then
Yeah.
Sunday's game and everything else. But I think even having like one day 100% dedicated to not working or thinking about it at all is super important.
Yeah, I totally feel you. I love getting off my phone on Saturdays, and then Sunday comes around and my screen time for the week shows up, and I'm just like,
Definitely.
oh no, what am I doing? What are you watching right now, and what are you reading? And then
Yeah.
maybe what do you recommend the most, as it pertains to any sort of media?
Sure. Currently not reading anything, but I'm just about to finish season 6 of The Sopranos. So that's been a great
Nice.
throwback that I've never watched and has been awesome. But yeah, I mean, to me, I love watching shows just because I can turn my mind off and get deep into something that is different than my normal work life. So I typically like to avoid the Shark Tanks and Undercover Bosses and those types of things.
Yeah. No cooking shows either. Chef's Table. Is
Uh,
is that a little too close to home as well?
too close, but I
Yeah.
cook every night. So
Yeah.
once again, cooking's an awesome activity to get your mind off things.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
Favorite dish to cook is probably I would say chicken marsala,
Mm,
or I make this really great Parmesan chicken, which is it's breaded chicken with
mm,
Parmesan and lemon in it, and it's super delicious. Typically a Sunday meal because it's a little bit more prep intensive
mm.
than what I make during the week.
When are you having me over for lunch?
Come over anytime.
Last thing that I wanted to switch gears in terms of like, thinking about you as an entrepreneur, balancing with work life, is around just leadership and hiring. Um, I like to ask, what is your process for like finding the best people? And then how do you ensure that those people feel supported and taken care of? I know, we originally met because you guys were looking at JOON, and you guys are a company that does care and prioritize employee well-being um, and culture, even in the remote setting. So yeah, I guess one, how do you find the best people? Two, how do you keep them around?
Sure. Well, yeah, we have an incredible team at Caraway, and certainly, wouldn't be here without everyone's amazing efforts. We're now about 20 people, about 15, 16 months into the business. And I think in general, when it comes to hiring, we like to hire folks who are super resourceful, people who will knock down any wall to get something done. And I actually don't like hiring people who've done it before, because then they're not hungry, and they're not learning anything. And so, our general approach is people who are super resourceful. They're really hungry to learn, and a lot of the people on our team maybe were at roles before where they had a lot of responsibility, but didn't get the opportunity to maybe own a division or own a certain piece of the business, and are really excited to do so. And so that's really fueled our hiring process. And then can you remind me what the second question was?
Keeping your people feeling supported and taken care of.
Definitely. Yeah. So we're still learning on this front. It's definitely super hard while you're remote. And we've actually onboarded, I think, 15 or 16 out of our 20 while we've been remote.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been an interesting build to bring on most of the team remotely, but as an organization, we place a lot of emphasis on goal setting. So we do an OKR structure every quarter and yearly. We do kind of weekly feedback reviews from managers to employees, and then once every 2 or 3 months, we love to do some type of event. So we actually had a really fun trivia night a couple nights ago, which was awesome, and got the full team involved. And I think as we become more remote, we're learning how to incorporate less business talk into the daily routines.
Yeah, it's a tough nut to crack. Is like we're on our computers all day. So how do you make those digital events as engaging as fun as possible? My friend said they're doing a wine and art night or wine
Oh,
and
fun.
paint night, which seems like a cool thing to
Cool.
to do.
Yeah,
One of the
yeah,
yeah.
the other thing too is, like getting people, cookware sets, or we just got everyone company swag. Like even some of those, fun little gifts are a great way to get people, excited and kind of connect them around those events.
Yeah. One of the most exciting things for me that's coming out of this conversations are my friends and people in my network being like, "Hey, can you connect me to Jordan? Like, I really want to work for Caraway." Are you guys hiring for anything right now? Are there any open roles and types of folks that you're looking for to join the team?
Yeah, I think we've got about 4 or 5 roles open right now, and
Awesome.
we're about 20, and we'll see where we end up by the end of the year, but probably we'll be somewhere between 30 and 40. So,
Amazing.
if something's on our angel list, feel free to apply. If something's not on angel list, we're always looking for great people and can make positions. So, love
Amazing.
to hear from people reaching out.
Perfect. Okay, we're at about the end of the conversation, and I like to ask, um, more broadly around direct to consumer, and then more specifically in terms of like thinking about the future of cookware and home goods. That's a we're all stuck at home still for the most part, so people are definitely investing more in their homes, which I think is overall it's a nice trend. Having folks over eventually, etc. What are you most excited about as you think about maybe first the umbrella direct to consumer brands, and then as you maybe go deeper as you think about the future of home goods and cookware?
Sure. I'm actually going to start the reverse, but when it comes to kind of home goods and cookware, the pandemic, I think, has, uh, you know, it, it's benefited this category in a way that I think's going to stick for the long run. A lot of folks have been home cooking. They're taking dollars that they used to put into experiences or fashion or other areas and putting them into their home. And I think now that people are spending more time at home, are more comfortable with it, are more comfortable with cooking, I think we'll see kind of that trend continue, and making their home a place that's more personalized. And so, when it comes to kind of the overall direct to consumer space, it's still early in the direct to consumer days, but I think a lot of brands you'll start seeing expand to new distribution channels. Obviously, brick and mortar hasn't been a huge selling point for not just brands but retailers over the past year, and so I'm really interested to see what retail experience looks like coming out of all of this, because I think it's going to look a lot different. And I think brands that previously where brick and mortar focused will become more digitally focused. And I think we'll see the reverse happen too, that brands that have been digitally focused have built a moat and a strength there. Will start to try to get more out into the physical world. And I think those experiences might look very, very different than what they look like today.
Yeah, it's wild to think like before COVID, all these digital brands were just like really doubling down on all these pop-ups and retail experiences. And then that was sort of halted and they did just fine. But I'm sure there's a lot that could come from doing that right with your consumer, and then like you said, the other way around with the companies that are more focused on physical space. Jordan, this has been awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and I'm excited to keep the conversation going with you and your team, and to see what you guys accomplish in the coming months, and more importantly, coming years and even decades ahead. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much, John.
Bye.
Bye.